Yeah, got you on that.
The worst hot take show ever. All right.
All right.
That was hilarious, bro.
All right, let's re-record this whole
You're
thing.
like,
3, 2, 1. Welcome everybody to the Florida flat. 3, 2, 1. Welcome everyone to the Florida Hockey Bros podcast. My name is David. I'm joined by my brother Daryl on the other side there. We're gonna jump right into some topics, and we have 3 topics for you today. We're gonna touch a little bit on the rookie camp that's going on, some of the games going on this weekend fairly quickly. We're also going to have some takes at the end of the show. We're going to go over what teams we think might miss the playoffs that made it this past season, this upcoming season. And let's jump right into the first one with some hot takes. We're going to focus on the Panthers, on the Florida Panthers, and we're going to give some hot takes, some expectations that might be a bit out there. Although I think mine's are pretty measured. I don't know about yours. Knowing you they're super measured and like super logical. All right, so I'm going to go with the first one because you always start. And it's always some silly stuff. All right, this one is not really a hot take. I think you agree with this one. And I do think that this happens unless the team is just playing off the charts great at the deadline. I think Reinhart is going to get traded at the deadline. What say you?
So you mean like in March, right? Like after?
Yeah, before the deadline. I think the reason why is because based on the salaries out there, maybe they do offer him some kind of extension, but I think he's going to want to wait and see what other teams are going to offer him. And knowing Zito and the fact that Zito doesn't, he's not going to get emotional about this. If the price is too high from his agent, I think he's going to get traded. Otherwise, you lose him for free, right? This is going to be his last season. So
yeah,
under the contract, it was 3 years, I think. So I think that's why it's going to happen. It's a hot take because if the team is playing well, chances are, just based on what Zito did last year, I don't know if he trades Reinhart. But yeah, I mean, I don't know. You lose a big offensive weapon, but you gain one with Rodriguez on the power play. So we have to see how that plays out. So yeah. What do you think?
I think you don't know what a hot take is.
I know this is like you wish on this every night. You light a candle and you're like, please.
I think that is the most likely scenario. like that cannot.
I don't
be
think it's likely at all. No,
I think it's the most likely scenario, or at least one of two. It's either an extension or he gets traded at the deadline. He's not going to be kept through the end of the season. There's no way, because you lose him for nothing, and I don't think Zito's done enough to do that. Not for a guy who's a first-round pick. Like he's going to max. Like Reinhart has come up like 4 times in trade talks the last 2 seasons with the Panthers. The main reason for that is that he's a guy that other teams could use and want. So all to say that like he is an asset that you could trade. So at the deadline, he's probably going to have the highest value, regardless of what the Panthers are. So if you are going to trade him, if you know by then that he's not going to extend, or you don't have the right number or whatever, then you definitely have to trade him. Even if what you get back is another guy like him, but that you maybe like more, it's a better fit. But anyway, like I don't necessarily think it's a hot take. I'm actually not hoping that he gets signed like before the season starts, just so that this hot take doesn't even.
That might actually be the hot take, that he gets like a 5-year
that might have been a little bit closer, because.
Yeah, but I don't know. It depends on the price. I think it's more likely that he resigns for like 5 years at like $8 million, then he gets traded, especially based on what he does. Like if I do agree, like you probably have to put him on the first line, right, and just kind of make him prove it, because it's his contract year, so he's probably gonna try to play as best he can, knowing the salaries that they're giving out there. Yeah, I don't think like him getting traded is gonna be like super obvious unless the team is just like a dumpster fire.
To me, we're not going to go through another Reinhart rabbit hole, but you also have to remember positions, man. Like Reinhart is never going to play center for the Panthers. That's, he's had 3 years to do that. He's never become a center. He's a right winger for the most part when he plays. He's not, unless Cito sees him as the future right winger next to Barkov long term for that first line, which I think we've learned that's probably not going to work at the level you need. Then the only options for him are the third line, which at $8 million, that's an irresponsible contract, or on the second line, where right now the guy has switched to that side is Tkachuk, and you're gonna move Tkachuk out of there. No. And he cannot play with Tkachuk. He does not match. Like he was never really tried in the second line for many reasons, because he would have had to play mostly on the left, and he's not a left winger. So long story short, I don't see the only way to me that he stays is he takes not even a pay cut. He doesn't take a raise. Like he's willing, if he thinks, okay, Cito gave me my actual value or even over my value over the last 3 years.
Probably a little over.
And he's going to give me 6.75 or 7 at most. And Cito can, in his mind, he has to have, with Maurice and everything else, they need to have a vision for where that guy's going to fit. Like for that money, you need to know where he goes. So anyway, like Tkachuk could play with Barkov. They have done it. They could play a little bit together. Tkachuk can play with Verhey, can play with Lustrinen, can play with Bennett. So, you pay those guys. Barkov can center any line. So that's much easier. Like Reinhart, I just don't, he's a special teams guy, like you said in the other episode, and he's a third liner for where he fits with us. Other teams, he might even be a first liner. But so anyway, at the end of the day, I highly doubt he gets signed. But if he does, then Cito and Maurice and all those guys, they must have a commitment that, like, we're going to turn him into the first line right winger, and we're going to make him a scorer 5-on-5, and and they're going to ask that of him. And maybe this is this preseason and season we get to see, maybe they try him there. I mean, we do have a hole on the right side in the first line. We there's nobody who has solidified the position, and he seems to be the best fit. I would move him there and try him there to start the season, to be honest. And on the left could be Verhage or could be Rodriguez. But then you get to see what he has to offer. Maybe that's a conversation with him. It's like, let's see what he's got the first 20 games. If it doesn't work, then we don't extend him. We train him at the deadline. So I think that it's very possible he gets traded. Again, we'll see what happens. But anyway, I just don't think it's a hot take. I think it's just like one of like 2 or 3 possibilities. But whatever, yeah.
Well,
you do you, man.
It is a hot take, man, because if the team is like doing really well, he's not getting traded at the deadline. They'll let him walk for free. They're not gonna ruin the chemistry, especially he's like your 3rd or 4th best scorer on the team. He's not gonna get traded at the deadline.
I don't agree with that. The Panthers were on the cusp of the playoffs at the deadline this year, and Cito obviously committed to the team and stuck with it to make the playoffs. But he didn't have much to get in return at that point that would make a huge difference. We didn't think we were going to make the finals. I thought it was like, can we even get to the playoffs? And maybe, I mean, the first round we knew it was going to be Boston or whatever. So to me, this year, I don't think we make a run. But unless we look like a top team and you feel like, wow, these guys have evolved and everything's clicking, and you definitely can make a run for real. In that case, maybe you do take the risk of losing them for nothing, because at least their money comes off the cap. But I also don't see that happening. I don't see the Panthers being in first place in the East. So anyway, whatever. We'll see what happens. It is a strange year. I really don't know where the Panthers are going to fit, but there's too many changes to know what's going to happen. But anyway. That's a shitty hot take. That was mine's good. Better, man. Mine's better. My first one is Barkov's going to get 100 points finally. I think he has had a lot of injuries. I think he is thought of as a point per game guy. So like, if he has a full season, like 80 points, it's kind of, maybe 90s where he kind of slots in. I think that he's adapted finally to Maurice's system. We saw him play a lot better later in the season and in the playoffs toward the end. He became more physical and dominant in the playoffs because he started kind of not great. And, we found out he was sick and stuff, but he was sick twice last year. He was injured a couple of times last year. He was adapting to a new system. His line kept getting moved. This season, probably there might be some movement on the first line, but given the makeup of the team, it would probably be more consistent. And I just think that, I don't know. I just think that he would have to be healthy, but I am going to say that finally he does. And he, he's not going to have like top wingers all the time, but, he plays at the power play. He can maybe score 40 goals this year. I'm not going to get into the goal scoring with him because it can kind of go up and down depending on the focus for him. But I don't know. I think he's got to get 100 points, maybe a Selke finally. But anyway, 100 points is harder for him, I think, than getting a Selke because he's such a two-way guy. He's so defensive, and that's why I don't think he puts up more points. He doesn't shoot enough. He doesn't, he's not aggressive enough. But having learned on the playoffs, I can see Barkov just letting go a little bit, just being more comfortable with the open ice after that grind of the playoffs and like just putting up the points,
Yeah, I think that is a hot take in that I don't think Barkov is ever going to be 100-point guy. Maybe one a year, once in his career, twice. I think it's just by now he's in his prime, right? And he's just not a shoot first guy. And for a center, like to get 100 points, that's what you kind of need to be. And if he isn't a 100-point person, like player, that means he's scoring, 40-ish goals. And then you lose Verhaeghe's production a bit if he's taking more shots. Verhaeghe has a better shot than Barkov, I believe. So I don't know if he's going to get to 100. If he plays like the whole season, yeah, of course, he can get there. But I don't think he will. I don't think has he ever played a full season? I'm not sure. But yeah, I mean, I hope so. It's my favorite player, so I hope that's what it is. All right, let me see my other.
See, that's how a hot take is done. You don't agree, so
the other,
because it's a hot take.
Cold water.
Yeah, try not to say something dumb again, man.
All right, my ice take. I did have another one like Reinhardt's that I deleted it. I'm not gonna say it. So I only have 2 hot takes. So I'm already ashamed. Well, this one is not really a hot take, right? You can see it happening. I think Evan Rodriguez is gonna have career high numbers, which it's like every player that comes to the Panthers that has any talent.
Damn it, man.
This is really sizzling, though.
Bro.
What's his career high? I looked it up the other day.
It's not that much.
That's why this was a hot take.
Absolutely pass his career high this
year.
No,
because he played in Colorado, top line, all those things, all the time. And he could. And no, I'm telling you, it depends. If, and I have a feeling he's gonna play either top line or second line. I don't think he's gonna play on the third line. I think Maurice to start the season is gonna keep Reinhart, Blundell, and Luostarinen together. But yeah, I think he's gonna break his career high, both in goals, assists, obviously points. Super hot. What say you?
Bro, he's 30, right? Like he's already like right in like the middle toward the end of the prime. He's a late bloomer. He had 2 back-to-back seasons playing with McKinnon a little bit, not all the time, and Crosby a little bit, not all the time. He's played some power play. With the Panthers, he might break into that first power play unit. We've never had in recent years a left winger who has a right shot, can do a nasty one-timer. That's perfect for the power play. I could see him slotting in the first line on the left if Reinhart is on the right, or if Verhaeghe stays with Barkov, I could see him on the second line I think he can play with Bennett and Tkachuk because he can add speed to that line because Ben is fast, but Tkachuk is slow. So if you have all of a sudden Rodriguez who's super fast, you can have a faster line on that second line. Luostarinen, I think with the $3 million, he might be better on that third line with Lundell.
I think so.
Especially if you're taking Reinhart out of that line, you still need a couple of guys you can trust. And I think Lundell and Luostarinen are those guys. Again, Rodriguez, if he struggles, if he's whatever, like he could go to that third line and really add some spark. But he seems to thrive, and he's a decent, he's strong 2 ways. So you can trust him on the top lines on defense. So I don't see why he wouldn't have career highs. He could reach 20, 25 goals. He could get to 50-some points, to my mind. Now, again, it's a matter of fit, health, and all that. He may become more of a tool player up and down the lineup or end up on the third line, and I wouldn't be mad at that. He's not getting paid a ton either. But I think it's kind of logical to think that, given the scenarios, he was playing on teams that were like veteran, at least in terms of the Pittsburgh was veteran team that he just kind of broke out there. And then with Colorado, they had a lot of injuries, so they needed to use him somewhat. But he also kind of signed late with him in the beginning of the season, and it's not like he got a ton of minutes. He was not, I don't think, got a ton of minutes on the top line or anything like that. So anyway, I think he'll reach 20 goals. I think if he stays healthy and plays like over 70 games, I think he can easily score 20 for the Panthers. We're a good team for those kinds of guys. Come in for a year or two, kind of reach career highs, be used. I think that's what's going to happen.
Yeah, especially if he plays on the power play. The big question with him is if he stays healthy. He's only had 3 seasons where he's played more than 60 games, and so his 43 points. Yeah, 43 points is the most he's gotten. It depends on what line he plays in. If he's in the top line, he's gonna get 50 points easily. But if he's like in the third line after like a few games because it's not working out or whatever, I don't know if he gets that. It's a super hot take. All right, what's your next one?
Super hot. Mine is that Lundell's going to get 60 points, man. I think Lundell, he doesn't play the power play, but he can give you 20, 40. I think he'll play on the first line if there are injuries on the left. So to me, like, Lundy's going to have a career year. So 60 for him. That's my hot take. And I know you're not as high on him and you're a hater, and Lundy's going to be a star. So 60 points to start to break out his career.
Yeah, no, I mean, if he is going to break out, this is the year. It's not that he's not a good player. I don't know if he's very similar to Barkov. I would even say he's more reserved in that he's not looking to score most of the time. So his career high was 44 points 2 years ago, which doesn't really count. President's Trophy season, everybody's stats were through the roof.
What do you mean doesn't count? He was like 19 or 20 years old.
Last season, last season he had 33 points. So you're basically saying he's going to almost double that.
Have you not heard of the sophomore slump? Go look at like Draisaitl's like first 2 years in the.
What's a sophomore slump?
The second year. Idiot. The second year of it, like a lot of guys have a great rookie season because they're kind of unexpected and new, and people don't plan for them. Then in the sophomore season, there's expectations. Teams are prepared; they know what to expect. Maybe they get moved up a line because they're doing better or asked to play more minutes, and then they struggle. That doesn't happen to everybody, but it is actually kind of common if you look at, I think it was Draisaitl, but there's a few other players I've looked in their careers that are actually comparable to Lundell's in terms of having a dip. But then that third year, fourth year, that's when they really break out. I think, to me, the main reason is not even the sophomore slump. I'm just joking about that. I think what affected Lundell was just Maurice's system. Like, it affected a lot of guys. The guys who had career years were the guys who knew how to play that style. But I think the other guys struggle more. I also think Lundell was out for a little bit, and he also played mostly on the third line, didn't play on the power play at all. He's still super young, 21 or whatever. He was 20, I think, when the season started. And he needs, and I think the playoffs, like toward the end of the playoffs, he looked like a man. He looked like he was playing hard, going to the front of the net, was skating with confidence. He scored some goals in the playoffs. Play with Reinhart. That line in the Toronto series was really good. So I think that he's gonna feel that freedom now. He's gonna feel that open ice in the regular season now in a different way that he's felt before. He was hesitant last year. You could tell he was like in his own head. He wasn't as confident. He makes nasty passes. I mean, the rookie season, the dude was making like backhanded passes without looking. He has incredible vision. He's has sneaky hands. He's not a great skater, but that's okay. Giroux's not a great skater, and he's a hell of a player. Lundell could be Giroux, man. And so to me, that's his ceiling, like being someone like Claude Giroux. And I think that,
it's a very high ceiling.
It is a high ceiling, but he's got the skills. He was a high pick, he's a first round pick. He's got the talent. He's still a kid, and I don't know. I like what I see at his best. I think he's kind of special. And the fact that he can play two ways like Barkov is perfect. I actually prefer those centers, like like Bergeron or Giroux, than like a high scoring center like Matthews. Like, of course you want those guys, but in the playoffs you pay the price, as we've seen. So anyway, I think Barkov helped shut down Aho and stuff in the playoffs. People don't like think about that, but that's also what Lundell can give you. Like Marie said, I trust that line. So anyway, I think he's going to score more. Is it going to be 60? Probably not. That's why it's a hot take, but I'm going to say 60.
Yeah, it's a super hot take because half of the stuff you mentioned has nothing to do with him getting points. He's a very good player. He doesn't play on the power play. Barkov, Kachuk, Reinhart, a lot of those guys get a lot of points on the power play because it's not just goals, you get assists. He doesn't play on the power play. He's probably not going to play on the power play, especially not on the first one. He's not like this guy that's just making all these passes and setting up goals, because he's going to be on the third line most likely with Luostarinen, who's not a high scorer, and Reinhart, who 5-on-5 isn't, a world beater. So it's not to put Lundell down. He's a very good player, and maybe in 2 years he could be your second line center. But it is a hot take because I don't think it's happening. 60 points is a lot. It could happen, of course, if he just, if they let him loose, because maybe Maurice is like, hey, just go for it. Maybe that's different. Maybe Bennett gets injured, he gets moved up to the second line. Like, there's a lot of ifs. But yeah, it's a hot take. It's way too out there. Some fire. All right, what's your next hot take? I don't have a third one. I deleted it.
Just so you know, I just looked it up right now. Claude Giroux, like sophomore season, or I guess rookie season, he had 27 points. Sophomore, he had 47 points in his second year, and Giroux was like, a skilled player, but he was also like 22nd pick in the first round. Lundell was like what, 12th pick?
Yeah, he was a higher pick, but I think it's just because of the two-way. I think it's a two-way play, right? They saw, and physically Lundell, he looks strong. He's not,
yeah, bro. But look at Giroux's totals, like 76, 93, 86, 73, 67, 58, 100 points one season, 85, 53. So again, he's not like, he does get injured a lot. Like Giroux has had a lot of seasons with like 50 some games, but like he's a kind of like a point per game player. Mostly, I want to say, like, yeah, career games 1,100, career points 1,000 points, so just under a point per game. Like that could be Lundell long term.
Yeah.
So anyway,
yeah. I think
we'll see, man.
I've seen it. Like, he does have skill, and he can score. Like, we saw him on the shootout. That one game, I forgot which game it was. He did a really nice move on the backhand. He has skill. He can score. He can shoot. He can skate. Yeah, I don't know. We'll see. I know you love him.
Well, my last hot take, since you don't have a third one, and this is kind of out of left field, but I'm going to say that Mike Banning plays minimum 10 games for the Panthers this season, which is very, very unlikely.
Super hot take. Yeah. I mean, what you're doing is easier than what I did, because that's like super obvious. Why would we have like 17 defensemen. Why would he play?
Hear me out. It looks like Montour and Ekblad are going to miss some time. Definitely Ekblad is going to miss at least until November.
Ekblad's like January, so yeah.
No, I don't know if it's January, but definitely
I think that's the expectation.
Yeah, whatever. These things could go either way, but he's going to miss some weeks, and then Montour is definitely not going to play to start the season. It sounds like he won't be in camp. So, at least from what I've heard so far. So yes, we have a lot of new guys, but when you go down the depth chart on the right, there aren't a ton of guys with both Ekblad and Montour out. So once they come back, then I'm with you. Betting has no shot. He's going to be in the AHL 100%. But I could see a world in which he's the fourth guy on the right, like the main backup on the right to start the season, maybe. If he has a strong camp, I could see an injury. I could see somebody struggling to play on the right that doesn't normally play on the right, because I think they're going to have to move a couple of guys around. And maybe he gets a few games in. Ekblad injury, who knows how long that's going to be, whether he's going to get re-injured. You don't know if Montour's going to get injured or anybody else, or one of the guys might get waived because of the cap. They're trying to bring people back and they need to waive somebody. And then all of a sudden, Mike Banning is still like a backup guy. Also, if he shows skills and flashes that he can carry the puck and he's not a liability on defense, that's a guy you kind of want to see what he has. Because going into next season and beyond, you need to know whether you're going to count on him as a top 6 guy, given his skill, or if he's going to get buried in the AHL. So again, likely no, but could happen. I think so. Now, I'm not wishing for injuries. I want like a Montour back, but I don't know. I want to see the guy play. He was great in college, and I just want to see what he has at this level. Even in the AHL, I don't know how much playing time he's going to get because there's a few other defensemen down there that got there first. But anyway, that's my hot take. Between injuries and waivers, and between to start the season, and if he has a strong camp, maybe if he doesn't, Maurice doesn't want him, then he's going to spend the whole season down there. But yeah, hot take. He gets to play 10 games.
All right, I guess. I mean, your hot takes are things that are not going to happen, so I guess they're hot takes. I mean,
it's going to be recorded. This is going to be recorded.
Here's my third one. Barkov is going to score 3 between the leg goals. Super hot take right there. Yeah, that's my hot take. All right, let's move on.
You saw what he did against Carolina, man, bro. Like he might do it.
All right, let's talk a little bit about the rookies. I'm gonna say a couple of things. I know they're playing this weekend. We're gonna try to see if we can watch at least one of those games to see how they perform. Obviously, we talked in the past about Mackey and Mike Benning. I think are the top 2 prospects, but sort of might actually break out. And I know the expectations from most of these guys to go back to either the AHL, WHL, wherever they're going to play. But anything that you want to touch on when it comes to the rookies? Any hot takes you want to say about the rookies? Mike Benning's going to play?
Yeah, Nitty. No, man. I think I don't have hot takes. I would just say that I'm excited to see some of the returning guys. Like Serdev, it's a guy that keeps getting mentioned. I've heard that people who've watched him in the AHL have liked it. Liked him. He had an injury last year, and that got in the way of his development. But he's a fast skater. Speed in today's NHL goes a long way. He's got really good hands. Has a really good shot. He is scrappy, and he goes back to defend. He's a guy that's like, they say he has a motor. He just doesn't stop. He likes to go back and forth. A little bit like Lomberg, and I would even say maybe more skilled, definitely, because he was picked. He was a 3rd-round pick, but at certain points, people thought that he could be a high pick. So I'm just curious to see. He didn't put up a ton of points in the AHL. It wasn't bad at all, but it wasn't, but he did get to play a little bit on the power play because of a shot and his speed. And I think he could become for us like a typical, like just 3rd liner guy who can skate and score a little bit. And you can trust both ways, as he gets more confident. So I'm high on him becoming a bottom 6 player for us, and even a guy because of skill that as he gets more experience could play in the top 6 if there's injuries. Those guys that have like that just good enough skill to be able to play with some other talented players. That's the other thing, getting to play with talent around you, make space for you. Yeah. And I think I'm trying to think if he's a right winger or a left winger. I really don't remember. I want to say he's a right winger, but anyway, he's a guy that I really want to see. I hope he does go to the AHL now and puts up a lot more points this year and then breaks the team next year, because we'll need to save some money. And he'll be entering, I think, the last year of his entry-level contract next season. So I would like to see what he's got to do, what he got to show. Obviously, Mike Benning, Samuskevich, we talked about those guys a ton. And then there are some peripheral guys like Josh Davis, people call Baby Lomberg. He's going back to the junior hockey with Marek Alsher, who's another defenseman that we've had that was in camp last year. He's still very young, but he's a very defensive, physical guy that I think might break the team or could break the team in 2 to 3 years. So some of those kind of, and I call them periphery guys, meaning like they weren't the super high picks, but they have shown development over the last couple of years, and they keep getting mentioned as guys that like could eventually become NHLers. And, Evan Naus, who's a 2nd-round pick, who's got some skill. There's a little bit of egg blight in him in terms of offensive and defensive skills and size. He needs to bulk up, but he's tall and he can skate. And he won the Memorial Cup in junior, and, he's spent 3 years in junior, so I think he's ready to play in the AHL. So those are the kinds of guys. I know there's some guys who are like older, 23, 24, who are either coming in on a contract or or played in the AHL last year, and those guys are fine. But for me, the most exciting pieces are some of these younger guys. Is Grayson Saushin on the roster? I think he was too. So if he's the guy that's there, I would be excited because
he was on the list.
Yeah. Yeah, so he should play, and he's very young. He's going back to juniors for sure to play on the top line there in the WHL. But I hear he's scrappy. There's a bit of a Kachuk in him too. So anyway, I just like to know that these young guys are going to get experience, play with each other. Ryan McAllister, who I think I am more high on him than you, and what I've seen from him, I've really liked. I think he's going to spend a full season in the AHL before we evaluate him. But I don't know. That guy has had back-to-back junior and college seasons that were really, really top. So, and he put up some points in the AHL last season. I think he had like almost a point per game, including the playoffs. So, yeah, I mean, there's enough like talent there to have us excited. We don't have that one top, shiny top 5 pick. I mean, Mackey's the closest to it, deep. But it's deep. It's deep, exactly. It's not. We don't have the shiny names that everybody talks about, but we have like a bunch of guys in different positions and with different levels of skill that could potentially break in. And I know a lot of teams could say that about their guys, but I'm objectively looking at their numbers, their progress, where they were picked, what the draft like reviews, whatever were, and there are some names here that could be filling some holes for us, which we haven't really had over the last few years. I think that was a gap in our previous regime that they didn't know how to draft.
Yeah,
for the most part.
I think Cito drafted a lot of these guys. Well, yeah, he drafted these guys. I wonder if he has like a plan in mind, because how like every year, last season we got Cousins and White and the Stoll brothers, right, to fill in, and the cap was tight. This year, we got Mike Riley, Stenlund, Lawrence, and Evan Rodriguez to fill in. I wonder if he's just, because Cito, he does have a vision, and I trust him with it. I think he may be looking ahead, thinking, well, maybe next season, maybe not this upcoming season, but for next season, if I can get, 1, 2, or 3 of these guys to break into the team, then that's going to help tremendously with the cap. And then I can either re-sign Verhaeghe or I can sign a top guy. If Verhaeghe leaves or Bennett leaves, then I can, sign somebody for 5, 6, 7, 8 million to fill in for the next 3 years. Because I know they're looking at a window. They're looking at a 5-year window to make a cup run. And then after that, after 2028, you can trade Barkov. After 2030, you can trade Kachuk, I think. So you can definitely like retool or rebuild if you have to, if Zito's still here. But I do think he has like a 5-year plan, maybe like a 7-year plan from when he was hired by the Panthers. But I wonder if that's the plan, because the prospects are good. Everything that I've read on all these guys is good. Sortiv's numbers are actually pretty good. I was just reading them while you were talking, and he can score. He's put up 26 goals, I think. So yeah, let's see how that goes. All right, let's move on to our last topic.
Well, hold on. I wanted to say that with Cito, if you read the tea leaves of what he's trying to do, like last year was cap driven. He had to fill the holes with like whoever, like the Stoll brothers, like cheap veterans. He also didn't expect the team. He knew the team was going to struggle. He said that to even Maurice with the changes, and he was trying to train up the core. So he brought in the Stoll brothers to provide leadership. He got Cousins, who was a hardworking fourth liner, one of the best fourth liners in the league by the numbers and in terms of underlying numbers, and a two-way guy, etc. And then you saw some of these guys become important in the playoffs, like Cousins scored some key goals and play on the second line. Lomberg, the Stalls actually had to contribute. Mark Stoll had a decent playoffs actually on defense, and so I think that was the plan then. I think this year you could tell Rodriguez, Lustrainen, and Mikkola are guys that in the next 3 years, let's call it a 4-year window if you count the last season, these are guys he's counting on with the cheap contracts, with the cap going up. He knows he can trust those people, and he wants them in place for third lines, third pairings, whatever it is that they go. And then the 1-year contracts, which he gave almost everybody else this year, most of those guys are going to be gone. I think he's just buying another year because he knows the prospects, none of them are really ready outside of maybe Mackey, and we don't really even know that. So he's probably going in thinking, I have Denisenko and I have Mackey as two main backups. I know that they might try some veterans in the camp, but those two backups to maybe get them some experience. I think going into next season with the cap opening up, and he's going to lose some guys. He cannot resign everybody for the next 2 to 3 years. So he's probably going to try to do a combination of big free agent signings or trades and some of these prospects finally breaking in. And there are a couple of names like Mackey, sort of, Jack Devine, Grayson Souching, which again, in 2 to 3 years, these may be the guys, even in McAllister, if he shows that he's continued to develop, they're filling all those spaces with a cap. And then you can splurge on a right winger for the first line for Barkov, or if Verhaeghe is going to leave, you can replace him with a high paid scorer. We need to figure out the defense. What are we going to do with Montour, with Eblag? So he's going to have to dish out some contracts. I mean, if we want to have the skill. And the rest has to be filled out by some of these younger, the new Londells, the new Lustrainans. So to me, that's where we're at. I think this year is not quite a transition year, but it's like he's given these prospects time. So that's why I'm excited about camp, because I think they're just trying to foster these kids, and some of them definitely got the skill to maybe break in. So we'll see, bro. But I think we'll have a more talented team in 2 years than we've had, this season that passed.
Yeah. On paper, it's an improvement over last season as far as the roster goes, but you know how that goes. Let's see how they perform. All right, let's transition. All right, NHL Takes. We're basically you want to do just one team from each conference?
Yeah, I don't want to do a bunch because it's not fun. I think it's better if we're forced to pick one team that a top team that we think
all right,
make the playoffs.
Right, so let's do it by conference, or if you want to do it by division, that's fine, whatever.
No, just conference. Just, again, keep it just one.
All right, so I'll go first with the West. I think this is easy. I had two teams. Well, I really had three, but I have two teams. One of them I think is gonna miss. Shouldn't be a hot take. I have Seattle missing the playoffs, the Kraken. I feel like they overachieved this past season. I also had the Winnipeg Jets missing.
Bro, you have the worst hot takes.
Calgary is going. Well, this is not a hot take.
You keep saying
it's a take.
No, it's a hot take. You keep saying those are not top teams. I mean, Seattle, yeah, whatever. But
look, Vegas is not going to miss the playoffs. I don't think. Oilers is not going to miss the playoffs. The Stars should have missed the playoffs. The Avalanche are not going to miss the playoffs. Minnesota will be a hot take, I guess. What other team is a hot take? Minnesota, the LA Kings.
Yeah,
the Kings could be, because the Kings
is my team. On the West, the Kings is my team. I think they made the trade for Dubois. I think they traded some really good players, some young players for that trade. I don't know that Dubois, he doesn't put up a ton of points. He's in the 60s. He's also asked to leave two teams already. I don't know the guy, but it just doesn't seem to me like he's gonna all of a sudden transform your franchise. They gave him a big contract, so they're getting a little bit older. Kopitar is a little bit older. I think he's gonna hang around for a little bit longer. But that team has been contending-ish the last few years and been in the playoffs a lot. They give people trouble. They've made the Edmonton Oilers work, etc. And they got the history of the two cups now a decade ago, but I could see them after the trade and after the changes, and their goalie situation is really not good. They have two guys.
Yeah, it's Talbot, right?
I don't even know. I don't know whoever it is, but it's two guys that are not neither of them is an established starter. So anyway, to me, again, it's a super hot take. No, but everybody thinks of them as a perennial playoff team that can give people trouble. And a lot of people are saying this is the year that they need to make a run.
I did hear that this is the year they need to.
Yeah, and I'm going to say that they actually go the other way and miss the playoffs, because Seattle, it's still there. Calgary might have a comeback. The Jets might have a comeback. They were in the playoffs, but they might be better. I like what they got in that trade with for Dubois. Yes, there's still a lot of really bad teams in the West. The East is a lot more competitive, but I could see, Calgary getting back in and the Kings missing. I don't see a lot of the other teams necessarily missing. I mean, it's ridiculous to say that Edmonton's going to miss but the Avalanche had injuries, and the Avalanche were middle of the table for a while last season.
Yeah, but they improved their roster this year. I think they're gonna win their division at least.
Yeah, but anyway, the Kings for me. Your dumb pick was what? What was it again?
I got the Kings as well.
No, you said Seattle. Get out of here. You said the Kraken, which of course they could miss it. They're a new team. They're like a bunch of pieces together. They definitely overachieved. So anyway,
all right. What teams are in the East?
The top teams, man.
You know what's funny? Like, no, seriously, like NHL Takes. I wasn't thinking of like a hot take. I'm an obvious choice.
Yeah.
So me, it's the Kraken. I think they missed the playoffs. And then in the East, it's not a hot take either. The Islanders are not gonna make it.
Yeah, it's a boring pick.
Yeah, I know, but it's obvious. I guess the Sabres or Penguins might take that spot. I have everybody else coming back in though. Well, I do have at best the Rangers are going to be a wild card.
That's my team. My team is the Rangers to miss the playoffs. Yeah, I think the Rangers are stuck. I think they couldn't make a lot of changes. They don't have Tarasenko anymore. They're getting older. If Panarin's in his 30s, Kreider's in his 30s. I know they have Shesterkin, and that makes a big difference. And their defense is good. They got Trouba and they got Fox and all that. And they're a good team. They're a hard team to play. I watched the Panthers dominate them for 2 periods on the road late last season. And of course, the Rangers were already kind of in the playoffs. So I'm not going to say that they were trying to have the best game of their lives. And they have beaten the Panthers over the last few years here or there. But what I saw in that game just made me think that they could be had. And then we saw the Devils, once they were down 0-2, just completely defensively shut them down and beat them 4 games straight. A super young team that then Carolina beat in 5 games, and the Devils are on their way up, but I think they still got more to learn.
They're still young. Yeah.
And they got to figure out the goaltending thing and all that. But at the same time, and I wouldn't be shocked if the Islanders, just because the Islanders are steady and they're physical and they're defensive and they also have a great goalie.
Yeah.
I could see them just be a wild card again, but the Rangers, if they get an injury or Samadijad is out or whatever, all of a sudden that team is not as scary, and Patrick Kane's not there anymore either, and so I don't know. I could see them falling off, even though a lot of people still kind of mention them in that top, middle, top 4 or 5 on the Eastern Conference. Yeah. So that's my pick. Because the other teams, I mean, it's ridiculous to pick. Toronto is ridiculous to pick. Even Tampa, who struggled last year, Tampa, I think is going to
be a wild card team. I think Tampa is going to be a wild card team unless Vasilevsky just lights out, which he's
unless those guys are pissed and want to make a comeback.
Yeah, but I think they're going to be a wild card team. I was just thinking in terms of what team is not going to make it. I'm like, okay, well, what team is going to be above them? So it makes sense. So in the West, it makes sense that Calgary makes it. I think last year it was kind of a mess, and Huberdeau came in, Uyghur came in. There was a coach, of course, Suter. So
I don't think the Penguins make the playoffs. I'm just going to say that. I'm going to turn into a hater too again with Simmons Toronto, but
no, I mean,
Crosby, I think their defense is really going to struggle.
Crosby had really great friggin' numbers last year, and at his age, and they didn't make it, and they blew that game against
Crosby and Malkin for the first time in a long time played all 82 games together. Which is hard to imagine again. They are getting older. Letang might be, he could get injured at any point. Carlson will give them points for sure, but he's an awful defender. And then Tristan Jarry is really, really inconsistent and also can't stay healthy on net. And then they lost some guys. I know they brought Acciari in and they try to fill out the back, and they traded for who was it from Vegas that played for the Panthers?
Riley Smith.
So, they substituted, I guess, Jason Zucker or whatever it was that they lost with him. But I just don't see it, man. I think they'll compete. I think there are going to be some nights in which they're going to beat you. And the talent's there and the experience is there. And they're going to go for it. I mean, they have to go for it the next 2 years. But the East is strong, man. Buffalo is really, really a juggernaut on offense. Jersey's going to be coming back strong. The Islanders are hard to play. The Panthers will be hard to play. Tampa will be hungry. The Rangers, they're an experienced team. Carolina, forget about it. And then, Detroit's a little bit better, I think, and they'll surprise some people and win a few more games. And I think Ottawa, with Tarasenko and they had a good team last year. I think they're getting better. They locked up all their young stars. And it's not just about the playoffs. It's just there's a lot of teams that are going to be fighting for that wild card, and it's going to be survival of the fittest. And I don't know that the Penguins can stay healthy long enough as they did last year to wade, through the very end. And the fact that they falter at the end of last season against Chicago and stuff, I think it might be over for them. Crosby, like you said, gave them a hell of a season, and the Panthers barely made it in. The Panthers could have been a lot better. Buffalo could have had a little bit better defense and would have overtaken them. So anyway, yeah. I think I might be wrong, and maybe Carson does have another 100-point season and they make it, but. I could see their defense really struggling, and I could see their injuries and the age catching up.
Yeah, and I wonder, Dubas wanted all that power, and he got it. He got it now, right? He's both president and GM, right? So what's he gonna do at the deadline if the team is struggling? He's
not going to do much because he's not going to trade any of the old guys. He just got Carlson. I think he's stuck with the team for the next 2 years. He does have a window. He'll say this year if they struggle, we just have to give it another go. He did mention that he's planning long-term already. And so he's trying to do both at the same time, but doing both at the same time is really, really hard. And I have to say, he does not have a great draft record in Toronto. I know that he traded away a ton of picks, but so did Cito. And look, I think I'll put up our draft pool, our prospect pool against theirs any day. And so all to say that I don't know that he's a good person to trust to rebuild your team fully. And it's not like Crosby and Malkin and stuff you're going to trade at the end of their years to get a ton back. I think those guys are going to retire there. So, and Letang too. So you can't even really trade them. And they're not making a ton of money. I mean, those guys, Crosby took a pay cut. So it's not like they're cap. Anyway, I think he picked the team that might struggle for a while. But they're a really fun team to watch this year because they're going for it. And it could be great or it could be a shit show. So anyway, that whole Toronto Dubas thing, and they're made for each other. He should have never left. I wish he would have stayed.
Yeah.
It would have been even more fun.
Yeah. All right. We'll wrap it up then. Right there. Anything else you want to say?
No, man. Next week we're gonna maybe talk about the rookie games, and then the camp. Yeah. The camp will have started, so we can then talk about the actual players and how.
Yeah, we'll get more into a season preview. We'll start getting into what lines we like to see and what we predict the team is gonna do and how far they're gonna go. I know we already kind of talked about that, but yeah. All right, guys, don't forget to hit like and subscribe for more hot takes. Yeah, catch you on
the worst hot take show ever. All right.